The show on the road. Everybody, so turn to the camera, just wave, say hi for a second, so that way we can confirm more than 3 people are here. All right, that was fantastic. It was very well done. All right, imagine, if you will, you're going to a restaurant, your favorite restaurant on your lunch break. Now, it's only the restaurant in the area that you can access, so the line's going to be very long if everybody's going to it. You get your personal favorite items: ham and cheese sandwich, chips, and a drink. The food has been prepared, and the employee tells you your total. He says, the total will be $3 million. Okay, that's preposterous. How in the world am I going to pay for a meal with $3 million? This is a situation that many Venezuelans face today, have left with no say in how things are run from a monetary standpoint, or anything to do with it, or anything to know what to do about it. Oh my God. Okay, try it again. Fumbled and mumbled. All right.
You started off really well.
Starting over. That wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad. That's all right. You felt that. Okay. All right. Ooh, goodness. That's why you don't have to really listen. It's because I may have to go through. All right. Sorry. All right. Imagine you're going to your favorite restaurant on lunch break. Now keep in mind that this is the only restaurant in the area that you can access, and everyone will be going in there at the same time, so the wait will be long. Now imagine you get your favorite items: ham and cheese sandwich, chips, and a drink. When you get to the very front and the employee tells you your total after the food has been prepared, they give you the total and say, thank you, that'll be $3 million. Seems preposterous, right? Jaw-dropping statement. How in the world are you supposed to pay for a meal with $3 million? This is a situation that millions of Venezuelans have been left with no say in how the government or economic structure is run, or inability to do anything about it. Hugo Chavez's handpicked successor, Nicolas Maduro, chose to consolidate his power as any king would do. Use security from the states to get rid of political dissent, anybody who was against him or opposed him, and left a relatively successful state in a land of poverty and famine. There are many ways in which his influence changed the lives of Venezuelans for the worse. These are but a few examples. First, to start off with, the Bolivar note, which is the most expensive currency paper in Venezuela, worth $100,000, in the global market is only worth 30 cents. It is because of government-controlled prices on both goods and services being sold, and just recklessly printing money on the side to make up for everything. That put them in the state. As noted by the Daily Express here, the valuation plunge was inflation intention to end the over-circulation of printed money, which caused inflation to hit 82,000% in July. As the opening statement suggested, a simple lunch in Venezuela would really cost about 3 million bolivar. This is due to the government's philosophy that they could just set all the prices, make some money on the side to make up for the difference, but they didn't know the way economics really works, and that it's not a viable solution. They found out the hard way that the bolivar is only as valuable as what someone will pay for it, which leads to a nominal price of labor or food that differs from their projections. The second thing that hurt them was government regulations on businesses that increased the wage increase up to 3,500% and forced 40% of businesses to close, holding them at gunpoint and threatening jail time if they were not to comply. As stated by the Daily Wire here, in the market, creativity died. Nobody was incentivized to produce anything of value or innovate. Luckily, Venezuela had a safety net: oil, lots of it. When your entire economy is reliant on one commodity, then your economic fate is intertwined with price fluctuations that are beyond your control. Making precious little on their goods, coupled with having to pay the ridiculous and outrageous wage, does not equal success. But the global market is fickle. It ebbs and flows, prices always dropping and rising. The government would promise free housing, schooling, and healthcare to everyone involved. But when the price of crude oil dropped, they weren't able to live up to the promise, despite already having people put in a position where they were beholden to handouts. And third, but not last, final, covered today, tackles the philosophy and structure of Maduro's government regime that has been notorious for encouraging corruption, relatively keeping the rich richer and the rich poor, or the poor poorer. As the Washington Examiner points out, the bigger the government, the more people's success depends on sucking up to the officials rather than offering a service to customers. First, Venezuelan jobs were allocated on the basis of political intelligence, or allegiance. Now food supplies. Okay, when the government runs business out of town with regulation, stifles creativity, and monopolizes on the one resource they have an abundance of, the people are left with no option but to seek out the government for help. A government that runs everyone's day-to-day lives needs plenty of workers all the time. The answer became clear. Either the people were forced to follow the money, work in line with the government, or perish from poverty and starvation. As you can see, these examples only scratch the surface when it comes to the problems the regime of Maduro has changed onto his own people. Our economic philosophy and government structure certainly isn't perfect here in America. When you compare our system with the other side of the coin, you see the glaring differences in how things are run. We may not be able to change or do anything about the Maduro regime at this point in time, but what we can do is learn from those mistakes that were made. By learning what those mistakes are, we have more insight on what we should do when thinking of improvements and adjustments to the structure that we have in place today. As the old adage says, and a wise man much wiser than myself, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.